Hi there. I wanted to answer another question today from the James English interview. This one's from Racine Media. But before I answer it, I need to let you guys all know I don't want to encourage crime in any way whatsoever. And you have to know that this is a past life for me. And, you know, anyone who's thinking and looking at this as glamorous, it's not. It's a very dangerous path which destroys lives. And it will, of course, destroy yours inevitably. So, with that out of the way, what was my most elaborate smuggling move? Over the years, there have been so many, but I think one of the interesting ones I remember was literally putting something together which felt like it was literally out of a James Bond movie. And how it started was a ship used to carry sugar cane, and it used to run from Jamaica, and it had been travelling with sugarcane for hundreds of years, literally from days of slavery. And what it basically entailed was the ship was obviously, it was docked in Jamaica, and lorries would come from the country with sugarcane, and the sugarcane would be loaded up onto the vessel, and it would stay, you know, in Jamaica for a number of weeks, and then, the other ship would come in, and they would kind of, they rotated. But the key to it was basically the vessel was taking sugarcane to the Tate and Lyle sugar factory in East London, as it had been doing, as I said, for hundreds of years. And I looked at it and thought, wow, that's a great opportunity. So, you know, over a period of time, back and forth, I looked at the Tate and Lyle sugar factory, and I remember as a little boy going there, and I'll tell you that story at some point, I'm sure, as well. But more recently, it was a question of having a recce on it, and things have changed, but it had very much the old, system and features in place. And I looked, to see where there were holes and gaps, and I realised on the dock where the ship obviously came into, it was incredibly quiet because it was at the back of, London Silvertown. No one really went there. There was a like a garage where they actually washed buses, regular buses to one side. There was a car park, but besides for that, there was no activity, and there was clear entrance to the waterway, So I thought, okay, it looks doable, but let's think how we can make it happen. So down in Jamaica, I had some divers. I knew lots of guys who used to dive. They used to dive for lobster, fish they were out there. Said, it wouldn't be a problem to attach something to the bottom of the vessel. This thing called a torpedo. Not a torpedo that obviously fires that, but like a tube made from steel, and you could pack contraband into that, and then you could basically seal that back up, and that would all be done, like sort of, wherever we were making that thing, and we would kind of weld it back and, have it also as fully waterproofed. Guys could go under, they dive the ship, attach it to the outside of the hull. And all it then would obviously need was someone at this side to be able to go and dive it and remove it, or so we thought. And in Jamaica it was really easy work because obviously the climate is quite good, the temperature of the water's fine. And I arranged for it to be done, and we had it done, and it was sealed on there, awaiting obviously the ship to sort of, to leave off and head to England. But ahead of that, I had to think really carefully, how could I get it removed from the bottom of the ship? And this was a real task, because when I spoke to people who actually had diving experience, they explained lots of complications to me. They said obviously that's a huge vessel, and the weight of that and stuff like that to carry that and lift that down, and how long to be under there. It was very precious. So I thought, who can I get to do this? And as luck would have it, I knew someone. And that person, amazingly, used to be part of the special boat services. And this was like the SAS, basically, but they were attached to the Navy, and they've been going since World War II. It was a very elite unit, similar to what you've got the Navy SEALs in America, what they do. And he basically said, look, it's very possible, because obviously his team that he used to work with, they used to obviously dive to check the vessels for mines, so they were really familiarised with it, and they obviously knew how to dive in cold water and stuff like this. So It involved a lot of equipment. They didn't have any equipment. They'd all obviously left the forces or the Navy, and inquired buying about £50,000 worth of special diving equipment, because there was stuff they needed to have to go under that no bubbles would actually even surface, because they may have been under there for a long time. Obviously, because you've got to get under there, take the torpedo off of there, and all kinds of movements. You've got to do this in dead silence as well, because you're working on a live dock, even though it's not as busy as places like Tilbury or Portsmouth or any place like that, where ships are constantly coming in. You still don't want to obviously bring any attention to it. Anyway, I thought amazing, so I bought all the equipment, had the team, but of course there was one other issue, and the issue they said was basically because of the weight of it and having to remove it, because they would have done a few recce's as well on the site, said to get this, basically moving this away, it's going to cause a lot of, it'll bring a lot of attention to it by removing it, pulling it up, coming down and dragging up to this wall. So they said, ideally, what we need to do is we need to get a rib and put a rib into the water and have the rib there to collect them, and basically all jump into the rib and they pull this thing along. And then obviously a certain part of the waterway, they take the rib out of the water with the product and they go. And I was like, wow, well, where the fuck am I going to get somewhere to sort of launch this rib from? Again, as luck would have it, had a friend. He was living in an apartment in Docklands. I went there one day to see him, and he said, oh, he's got his car downstairs in the car park, which is underground car park. Anyway, when I went down there and stuff to the car park, I looked over, hold on, that's water right in front of me. Where's that take? So I go, where? He said, right along the waterway. Of course, there it was. That was the magic moment. I thought, not only we can get the rib on the water there, when we come back with the product, we can drag up the rib and we can hide it in the car park. Anyway, it was all systems go. Thing was done in Jamaica. It took set sail, which was I think it was 12 days it took to sail here and arrive. Everything went according to plan. And on the evening, obviously, and this is one I didn't want to miss. I wanted to see it in its full glory. The guys turned up. They had two divers. Okay, they went in. They slipped into the water. Not even a sound or a ripple. They were under there a good period of time. Anyway, when they came up, I was like, right, signal, boom. So I got a walkie-talkie. Right, come with a rib. Literally, it was like something out of a James Bond film. So the boat guy came down with a rib. These guys came up basically with the torpedo. They loaded it on and they basically headed back down the waterway. And obviously I then drove back round to his apartment. By the time I'd got back there, with all the roads and stuff like that, remember it was a straight waterway, they were already pulling the thing out of the water. Anyway, we laid wait, and it was a very, very successful mission, but it's not something I'd recommend anyone tries to do. But in terms of what was the most elaborate smuggling move, that probably comes really close to it. And I can only describe it as the closest experience I had to a Bond movie.